Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing? I hope you all are well. We're going live a little bit early, well, a minute and 30 seconds early, and that's fine. There ain't nothing wrong. Look, if you can hear me, drop one in the comment section so I know and I'm not just talking to myself. We know that this is very on brand for me to do so. And that's okay. That's all right. Now I'm gonna go share this to the main channel real quick. So basically we are in a hold pattern, so please just hold while I go to the main channel and let everyone know that we're hanging out over here. Now for those who are just joining, who are watching on the replay, or if you're just joining now and you don't know how it goes, this is I call it the podcast channel. It's where we go live at sometimes. So make sure you're subscribed to this because it is different than the main channel. And again, some people like live chats, some people don't. Pardon me. I'll stop and talk to people. We'll go over stuff, all that. So if it's not your vibe, totally get it. I get that. So, just don't feel bad if you're like, you know what, Paul, we like your pre-recorded stuff, but just not this. I get it. I get it. Now, let me just go on over here and our community page of the main channel. We are live on the podcast channel. Come join us. And let's just do that. And then let's post. And then Roscoe, where you wanted to go, buddy? Roscoe's wanted to hop down. He will be back. Okay, now let me come back to the Sofa Squad. Okay, so everyone here is, okay, cool. Awesome. So hello, everybody. Let me just go back up here. Hello, everybody. Welcome, Emily. She is our lovely, wonderful human being of a moderator and friend and Sofa Squad family. Thank you for being here, Emily. I appreciate you. And hello, Susan. Hello, Jay. Hey, Drew. Also, Jessica. Emily. Also. Let's see. Period. How's it going? Esmeralda, how are you? Diasuko, I hope I'm saying that right. Hey, Mel. Hey, Megan. Hey, Jessica again. Hey, Observation. We all float down here. I love that name. I love that movie. So, y'all, today we're going to be talking about another Netflix documentary. I'm liking this pattern of watching a Netflix documentary and then coming to the Sofa Squad and talking about it. And this was another, y'all recommended this one to me. So by the time we leave tonight, if y'all recommend another one for me, please let me know. Because I've thoroughly enjoyed the last couple that we've gone over. We went over Twin Flames, which, oh my God. And now this one tonight that we're going to go through, which is Till Murder Do Us Part. Till murder do us part. I can't say it. So that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it through some articles. And while I was sitting here for the last 30 minutes waiting to go live or doing work on the computer, I was lost in Reddit, reading the Reddit comments. So we're going to very much use the Reddit thing as conversation starters, because this is one of those cases and those documentaries that, first of all, a lot of us are going to have to agree to disagree because there's going to be many mixed feelings on this. Y'all will probably be surprised at my thought process on it, because I've literally gone back and forth, literally as of like the last 15 minutes. I was like, wait a minute. I've literally gone back and forth and changed my mind how I feel about it. I was talking in the Patreon chat earlier. We've got a little chat thing that we do over there. And, we were talking about it, and I think her name's, well, let me look real quick. Isabel, who maybe she lives in Germany. I don't know if you're in here. If you're in here, drop it in the comments. Let me see here. Yeah, Isabel. I believe she lives in Germany, but she was talking about what this is like to follow this case over there, like on the ground reporting or whatever, because that's where one of the perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, let's say at this point, was. He's from, he's back in Germany. He was deported there once he got out of jail. And I go back and forth with it. So as of recently reading the Reddit thing, I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't look at this angle of it. So anyways, but that's what makes some of these cases very interesting. So now, unfortunately, at the center of this are the victims, of course. And the victims are the parents of one of the, well, they were a couple, like boyfriend, girlfriend, but of the woman, Elizabeth. They lost their lives. Roscoe, come here, in a very violent manner that no one deserves. And so they are at the center of this case. And obviously, surrounding it is a bunch of what really happened, which this is another one that we probably will never know what really happened. There's only four people that know truly what happened, and two of them, unfortunately, are no longer here to tell their side of the story. Please hold. So, what we're going to do, a couple of things. I'm going to go pull up an article. Please hold. Okay, let's see. Where's Elizabeth Haysom? Okay, so we're going to read that one in a second. But let me just pull this up, and I'm going to do the share the screen and that kind of thing on this. Okay, so yep, there we go. Roscoe, sweetie, let's chill. Y'all are going to have to get him in a second because he has. Okay, this is what we're doing. We are in a shake the plate pattern right now. Roscoe, come here. Come here. Hold on. I got to go get him. Hold on, y'all. Okay, sorry. Come here. Come here. Hey, everybody. It's food time. Leave me alone. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I'm not joking. Come on. There's your food. Oh, my God, y'all. I'm talking just violent over here about this food. Okay. Roscoe's eating. He'll join us in a second. Lord mercy. Okay. So I'm going to be sharing the screen, that type of stuff while I babysit Roscoe. Roscoe likes to have somebody sit here with him and eat. And so you have to shake the plate of food to make it interesting from time to time. So, yeah, that's where we're at with Roscoe. And he gets demanding. Okay, so I'm going to go to share the screen, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Netflix page real quick, so we're all on the same page, because I'm seeing a lot of people saying they don't watch it, whatever, and that's fine. There ain't nothing wrong. You might want to watch it after here. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see. So share the screen. Okay, so we're at Netflix. Okay, share. Now, let me just make sure y'all are seeing the same thing as me. Okay, so here we go. I'm not going to play it because last time when we did the Twin Flames thing, I played some trailer. Even with the sound off, y'all, it flagged the live chat. And I had to go back and the way they do it to be like cut it out or whatever of the thing. So I'm not going to play any of that. I'm not going to play the thing on here. But this is what we're talking about till murder do us part. Soering. I have a hard time saying his name the way they do in the thing because in my North Carolina way, I want to say it Soering. But Soering, it's very like one wordish. Versus Haysom. Now it says, did Jens murder his girlfriend's parents in 1985, or was she the killer? This docuseries digs into questions that still swirl around the case. And let's see here. So here's the there's the trailer. Here's the episodes just to kind of give you an idea. So number one, a love story. On April 3rd, 1985, police discover a horrific blood-soaked crime scene at the Haysom house outside Lynchburg, Virginia, and begin to investigate. So episode two, Liz. This is the daughter. While Jens fights extradition, Elizabeth's testimony in court characterizes him as the cold, calculating mastermind behind her parents' deaths. Then, episode three, Jens. During his 1990 trial in Virginia, Jens recants his previous confessions and unfolds a new story of the murders before Elizabeth takes the stand again. And then, number four, Linked Forever. With both ex lovers in prison, Jens begins a campaign to gain his freedom. Today, puzzling questions and the crime's long shadows still linger. And is there anything else more like this? We might revisit that later. Shibby dibby do. So there's that. So we're going to stop sharing that page and come back over to the chat. And hello to everybody who has just joined. I hope everybody is doing well. Hello, Amanda Thompson. I hope you're doing well. Hey, Holly. How's it going? Hello, everybody who's joining. Hey, Derek. Hey, how's it going? Okay. So that's the nuts and bolts of the thing right there. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to switch over to this other article that's talking about like where they at right now type thing. That's going to give like a very quick breakdown. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this twofold here. Number one, it's a Netflix documentary. Okay, so and I'm not just putting this on Netflix. That documentaries and whatnot are always going to be biased and that type of stuff. They form a narrative, yada yada yada. So just know that, right? This is definitely imperative to form your own opinions and that type thing. Number one, this is just this case went. I mean, this is 1985, y'all. So long, okay. This has spanned many different stories, not different evidence, but technologies, DNA, this type of stuff coming forth. So just know that this is such a broad stroke that we're doing in this live chat of this. So it's not, I ain't trying to say I know every last nook and cranny is what I'm getting at. Okay. So just form your own opinion, do your own, research stuff. Now, Roscoe says he is ready to join us. Say thanks, everybody. Sorry I had to eat that plate of food. And you're not going to get the wrapper. He's very demanding, very demanding. Well, now he wants to get out. Go on, go get you some water or whatever you want. Okay. Now let's go back to share the screen and go to another one. We're going to share screen. We're going to share the screen again. Then we're going to go to this Men's Health article. We're going to share and make sure y'all see the same thing as myself. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so where's Elizabeth Haysom from Till Murders Do Us Part now? The murder of Elizabeth's parents and subsequent trials explored in the Netflix true crime documentary. Now, the reason I wanted to do this article right here is, number one, obviously what she's doing now, but number two, because it very quickly summed this up according to the docu series, right? So it just did it very well. So we're just going to go through this and talk about some parts of it. So it says there, the latest true gripping thing. It focuses on the double murder of Derek and Nancy Haysom and the two prime suspects, the daughter Elizabeth and her boyfriend Jens. So it says Canadian. One thing to keep in mind is, we're talking about Canada, Germany, University of Virginia. Okay, so these three different places. Okay, so Canadian Elizabeth 20 met then 18-year-old Jens Soering, the son of a German diplomat. Keep that in mind while they studied at University of Virginia. They dated, they became inseparable. Haysom later testified that her parents did not approve of the relationship, and that this was the underlying conflict that led to the violent deaths. April 3rd, the bodies are found. They had both been stabbed repeatedly so that they were almost decapitated. When I tell y'all, this was a hate-fueled murder. Keep that in mind as we talk about it, because oftentimes when we see that, it's not someone who doesn't have some emotional tie, like that, a passionate type, like that vibe of anger towards the victim. You know what I'm saying? Please hold. Okay, so it talks about they were the initially suspects, but they had this alibi of being in DC. Now remember, this is 1985, right? We don't have these little, GPS monitors on us everywhere. Things are much different. Okay, so however, it was once it was found that their hire cars, they rented a car, the mileage did not match. It was like way over. It did not tally with the journey they claimed to have made. Police turned their attention to the couple. Elizabeth and Jens flew to England and lived under fake identities and were eventually arrested for fraud in 1986. During the murder trial that ensued, both Elizabeth and Jens changed their accounts of the murders multiple times. Initially, Jens confessed to killing Derek and Nancy while Elizabeth waited for him in a hotel. He then changed his story and told authorities that Elizabeth was the perpetrator. Elizabeth eventually testified that she manipulated Jens into killing her parents on her behalf and pled guilty to 2 counts of accessory to murder before the fact. Jens pled not guilty but was found guilty on 2 counts of murder. So what happened to Elizabeth? And this is very short and sweet. So after pleading guilty to accessory to murder, she was given 2 consecutive 45-year prison sentences and began her term at the Fluvanna Correctional Center for Women in Troy, Virginia in 1987. She served 32 years of her sentence and was granted parole in 2019. She was then deported back to Canada. She's not allowed to come back to the United States. And while Jens Soering appears in Till Murder Do Us Part, Elizabeth does not. She is believed to have declined further participation with the media on the request of her half-siblings on her father's side. Okay, so we're going to stop sharing that and then go back to the room. So a couple of things to keep in mind here. So, like they said, this was like this back and forth thing, right? And that was one of the things that kind of captivated people. Now, there would be evidence, and we're talking footprints, we're talking DNA would come much later, right? Much later. Confessions on his part, his story matching up to stuff. But then there's also this weird, and remember, DNA is not there. So the blood stuff would come later. But there's just all this other stuff. Now, another thing at the crime scene, they find her cigarette butts, some of her, I can't remember if it was DNA or fingerprints on like some vodka or something. But remember, it's her parents' house. Now, also keep in mind that the parents allegedly do not care for him too much, but this is their daughter's boyfriend. Now, the story is going to be, and we'll get into it in a little bit when we go through the Reddit thing, of they show up. Well, remember, at first it's he shows up by himself to the house and does this deed. So you do have to stop, and you'll see this continually in the Reddit thing. And I'm just going over some quick things of like what took place and the various stories. So one of them is she stayed back in the hotel. He goes to the house. He kills them both. Now, again, when I tell you that this was brutal and savage, so if you start to look at the thing of did he do it or did she do it, and you only consider those two people, as options to do it separately, you then have to ask yourself the obvious question. Okay, if you're going to hold up a female perpetrator versus a male perpetrator and show the violence that occurred to these two people, one of them being her grown father, who do you think could do that? You know what I'm saying? Now, I have other opinions of it, of being like, well, maybe two people at one time could do it, which is ultimately how I think it went down. Um, Whether it was him and her is up for debate at this point in my book, but we'll see. So there's that. Then you have to also ask yourself, if you're going to go with, okay, whether it's all this violence committed against them, whatever, the level of rage against the bodies, especially like the mother and whatnot, but both of them really, was so intense. It's like you almost have to ask yourself what random person would exhibit this kind of rage, you know? Um, she had plenty of reason to feel a certain way. Now, one of these, a key crucial thing, and we'll read about it when we get to the Reddit thing, is there were nude pictures of her that it's stated that the mother took them, and that there was abuse of a certain type coming from the mother to her, and that she obviously was very resentful over this. Roscoe, you're not going to get the Twix wrapper. Let's just move away from that idea. We're not going to get it. It's going in the pocket. Okay, it's all gone. Like a child. Like a child, okay? Obsessed with getting this Twix wrapper. Obsessed with it. So there's those things right there. Okay, now let's go to another article real quick. And let me just get rid of some of these ones that I've already done. Do we do this? Okay, we're gonna do this one right here, the CBC thing. So hold on, let's go over here. The real tea is gonna be when we get to the Reddit thing, because I had so much fun going through that, y'all. But I just want to kind of get all this type stuff out. Um, and yeah, so Miss Ronnie says she lied about the abuse to get Jen to get him to commit the murder with her. And yeah, so here's the thing. So much of this is like this he said, she said type thing. And there is this high level when you're watching this of, and let me go into these things too while I'm thinking of it. And I'm sorry if I'm jumping around here. Her manipulating him, taking advantage of the I'm in love, submit and that type thing to get what she wanted, almost like manipulate him into killing the parents. There was these letters. Somebody just mentioned something about their corny letters, like these letters and all this type of stuff. Well, and one of them, she even says in this letter, and I'm not going to say it verbatim because, well, it's kind of saucy, but basically like how she doesn't like men, or, wants to get back at them, all this type of stuff. And essentially saying like through this manipulation, and she'll give them the best, well, sex that they've ever had, to kind of get what they want, give them what they want, and then manipulate them, this type of stuff, right? So it's almost, you can piece together when you're watching this what might have taken place with him, because when they are caught and he decides to change his mind, and let me just throw this out here too, he is basically telling them, and I do think there's some truth to that, like this part right here, where he's like, look, I lied about what happened. She did it. I was going to take one for the team because my dad's a German diplomat. I figured I would be deported back to Germany, serve 5 years in jail, and I could keep her out of the electric chair by doing so. So I was going to take the blame. I was going to confess. That's what we were going to do. You know, keep in mind, and this is my thing where I'm at with it, like whether I think he had active hands on the thing or if he was just there or if he wasn't there and it's truly made up, whatever. At the end of the day, with those things right there, they thought they were going to get away with this story right there, right? Of even if it was that simple, of he knew she get pretend that we could lift the veil off of it, and we 100% could see, yeah, you know what? He's not lying. She killed them, and he was going to take it, take one for the team to like help her out or whatever. That's still wrong, okay? You know what I'm saying? They were still both actively participating in uh you know, taking the lives or whatever. So, and hey, Jim and Jen, like they said, and I agree. Where are they now? Now we're going to talk about where he's at now because, y'all, he's a life coach. We're going to look at his website, okay, and his GoFundMe. He's a life coach. So I mean, there's that. I thought that was a little bit out there. I was like, it's giving twin flames. It's giving twin flames. So there's that. Okay, so let me just switch back over to this next thing we're going to go over. Where is the share the can? Where is the present? And then share screen. Yeah, wait till we get to his little thing right here. Hold on, please hold. Okay, wait, share screen, and then we want to go to this one, and then we want to go to this one, and then I'm gonna make sure y'all can see the same thing as me. So Netflix revisits, and pardon me, murders that resonated in Nova Scotia nearly 40 years ago. And then we're just gonna come over here. Now these are the victims, Derek and his wife Nancy. Again, absolute carnage. Okay, here's the house. So let me just get to where now. So Derek Haysom, I'm sorry, a former president and chairman of the Sydney Steel Corporation of Nova Scotia, and his wife Nancy at their home in Virginia, and the ensuing media firestorm that followed in the wake of their deaths. So let's scroll down here. I'm just going there. They fled Europe on cousin. So, while in custody, British officials found letters Elizabeth Haysom had written to Soering, implicating them in the murders and contacted Virginia police. According to a New Yorker article from 2015, Soering initially confessed to committing the murders because he wrongly assumed he would be protected by diplomatic immunity and later recanted. He said that he only lied to prevent his girlfriend from facing the death penalty. Okay, now Elizabeth Haysom pleaded guilty to 2 counts of accessory to murder before the fact and was sentenced to 90 years. Soering, who ended up pleading not guilty, was convicted and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms for executing the killings. And then it goes on, about the back and forth, and then it goes on to the docu-series. And then the series mentions Derek Haysom's connection to Cisco, but doesn't explore the family's connection to Nova Scotia. Born in South Africa, he held a variety of influential positions during his time in Nova Scotia, including at Cisco, a Crown corporation. Later, he became president of Metropolitan Area Growth Investments, a venture capital organization with provincial and federal funding that made investments in local businesses. While working there, he was involved in a controversial purchase of a Bermuda registered cruise ship that was renamed the Mercator One. And it goes on talking about this part right here. He retires in the 80s. He and Nancy moved to Virginia, but they remained connected to the province and had a summer home near Lunenburg. So they were very well to do. Okay. They had a lot of money. Okay. Then it says in an article published by the Globe and Mail shortly after the murders, neighbors on the South Shore said Derek Haysom was a nice guy with a special interest in cars who enjoyed driving his BMW. He also gained some renown locally for his attempts to produce a new strain of apple on his property. Let's see. He was remembered as an athletic man. The murders were considered shocking. In 2016, Elizabeth Haysom told the Richard Times Dispatch in Virginia that she was profoundly ashamed of her role in the crime. After more than 30 years in prison, they were both paroled. They had to go to their each back home, basically. Soering continues to proclaim his innocence, claiming that he took the fall for his girlfriend, and she maintains she ordered him to carry out the murders. No, maintains she ordered him to carry out the murders. Okay, so again, just kind of a little short thing there. Let me go back over here to where y'all are at. Oh, thank you, Harley62. I appreciate that. And thank you for being here on the sofa and hanging out. Well, Sherilyn's reporting live from Nova Scotia. Hey there, girl. How's the sofa going over there? Okay, what was I doing? I would stop sharing. Okay, there we go. So you see that there's that, okay? Now, here's the thing. You know what? We need to get into that. We need to go to the bowels of Reddit. Like, let's go on and get into the bowels of Reddit because this is going to get into the tea. Now, this is kind of geared at this point towards if you've seen this, there's spoiler alerts, that type of thing. But again, this is one of those things where you can watch this even after going into because you're going to hear a lot of little tidbits. But this just kind of helps me to bring up talking points. And yes, we'll kind of jump around a little bit. So there's that. Now let me go to the first Reddit that I picked up. Which one do I want to go on? Because this one was a good one. Soering versus Haysom. Let's do this one first. Let's do the one for the actual documentary. Yes. Okay. Okay, present. Okay, here we go. Share screen. Share screen. There we go. There we share. There we share. I don't care. I'm going to comb my hair. Mel, and hello, Mel. How's it going? This is 1985. So this was a long time ago. I mean, not to me really, but you know what I'm saying? Like to some people, it might seem like, whoa, gosh, seems like yesterday, though, to me, if you want me to be honest about it. All right, so let me get over to this thing. Okay, so here we go. So you see their pictures. This is them as youngsters, doing their thing in court, all that type of stuff. Okay. Now, again, this is Reddit, so just know that if you're familiar with Reddit, you already know it can be savage comment section. So one person, this is one of the better ones in the Netflix crime doc. They were both there. Her cigarettes, his footprint, two very smart people who once separated, turned on each other, both liars, both guilty, ironically, both free because of their lies. And now here is the ironic part about this. This could very well be true, right? Now, this man, Jens, he had like the former president of Germany coming over and speaking on his behalf. I mean, it became, and who is the current the prime minister, the president? Markel or whatever her name is. She mentioned it when she came over for a visit, like, in the recent years, obviously, before he was let out. I mean, this became a major political talking point, which kind of, I think, helped lead to them getting paroled. He got paroled first, and the way the doc portrays it is it was essentially like, well, you can't not parole her because she was technically convicted of a lesser crime. So it's like he is actually convicted of doing the crime. They parole him. It's almost like, well, you got to let him go, which, I mean, honestly, it's like, well, okay. Anyways, now this person mentions again his cigarettes, her cigarettes, his footprint. Now he did a little thing to basically say this could not have been my foot because it was like a sock footprint in the blood. Yes, it does look. That was one thing that sold it for me of like he was there. You know what I mean? Like when I watched it, I was like, he was there. But then you get into like kind of like the okay, like how reliable is this? Type situation. What expert do you have up? Because one thing that I don't like about Netflix docs is they'll sit here and take an expert and put it up there and you're like, oh, well, I'm sold on this. But then you start doing some research and it's like, well, they forgot to include the 5 other experts who disagree with that person. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where it gets frustrating watching these documentaries. And for me, I always have to keep in mind it's literally just entertainment, and then you have to just go do your own research afterwards and kind of like, piece together things and decide really what you think about it, because they're going to want you to think a certain way. It's human nature, right? But nonetheless, it is frustrating. So that being said, let's keep going. Now, let's go to this one because this was a good one. So for me, the both were there theory is the one that makes most sense. Circumstantial evidence pointing to both. She goes on trial first and decides to avoid execution by pointing at him. He knows this is not true and thinks we can both play this game. Both end up being committed to their respective incomplete versions. What really amazes me is that so little useful forensic evidence was found considering the gruesome scene and the perps having no prior criminal experience. And that is one thing that was very interesting about this, is once they had the DNA, because this is what would happen. Once they're able to like do DNA testing, stuff like that, they do the DNA testing and his doesn't come up anywhere on these bodies. And so that was a huge thing for him. Well, in the documentary, they get an expert out there that's like, okay, well, actually, well, let me back up. His DNA is not found, but an unknown male DNA is found. So it's like, okay. Well, in the Netflix documentary, they have a dude get up there who's like, no, what that was it was mixed DNA from the victims. So it's almost like all the DNA proves is that it doesn't prove anything. It proves that the victims were there at the crime. And that's it. It doesn't prove that he wasn't there and that they weren't there. Well, that's the part where I was like, oh yeah, hands down, they both did it. That's what happened. They both did it, both him and Elizabeth. But then I started looking and it was like, well, wait a second. There was other experts who were like, no, we've gone back and that was not a mix of the DNA or whatever. There was an unknown person there. And so that's where I'm like, okay, hold on a second. So I'll get into my theories on, because again, they change moment by moment at this point. But my overall theory of what I think probably kind of went down with it, as we get to the end of it, we'll see how it changes as we keep reading more here. Now, let's read some of the replies to that one because, well, it says no mention of any murder weapon either. It does seem like the crime scene was botched. It's very fascinating how she comes across as clearly fake and weird, and he seems sincere, to me at least, in the court videos, but their mutual friends liked her so much more than him. I'm on episode 3 right now. I'm shocked that the documentary didn't mention the missing tableware. Jen's had an explanation, but they didn't really discuss it. I think it's one of the most interesting parts of the case. It certainly indicates that the person sitting and eating was not the parent. Then, one more reply. Could you say more? I missed it. Oh, okay, whatever. So then it says, why would he be so enraged when they planned for him to take all the blame beforehand, as he claimed? And didn't he actually take all the blame during his confession before her trial? She didn't say anything unexpected in her trial. She cut contact to him. That made her disloyal and not worthy of his white knight plan. Then it says he was also thinking he'd serve maybe 5 years and be sent back to Germany. He confessed when he thought the punishment would be low because of his status. And then the next person says, I'm probably not going to decide to go to prison to protect someone who's accusing me of murder either. Then let's continue down. It says, I think the plan for both of them was to confess, and she decided she wasn't willing to risk it when push came to shove. She abandoned ship, broke up with him, and he got word that she had called him impotent at the trial while he was locked up abroad. I think his ego and narcissistic personality just went berserk. And then the next person says, I just can't believe they couldn't get any eyewitness from the cinema or the hotel. Now, let's stop for a moment and talk about this because they had an alibi at first. Remember how it said that? They were at the movies. And so they're in DC and they didn't, whatever. So they go, and remember, this is in the day and age of, we don't have cell phones, none of that stuff. Okay, so they had gone up to DC and please hold, let me get a sip. Okay, thank you. Or sorry. Okay, so they go up to DC and they get movie tickets to these movies, like 2 or 3 movies, I can't remember what. They rent a car. Now, this is where it can go in many different directions at this point, right? But what it happens is, remember we read earlier where they're like, well, wait a second. The mileage doesn't add up, because they were basically saying, well, we're in DC, like we couldn't have been back down there. But what it would appear is that they went up there, bought tickets, and then drove back down with a car, because it's like, where does this mileage come from? Now, at one point, she'll say that she went and got the tickets and then got some drugs and got high and doesn't really remember this, that, or the other. Again, their stories fluctuate. At the end of the day, regardless what anyone thinks and whatnot, and remember, we're going way back here. These were not trustworthy, honest people during this time. Speaking of Elizabeth and Jens, regardless of who did what at that time, they were both just cooking up stuff, right? left and right. So these were not people you could really take their word. So just know that with all these stories, and that's what happens with him. And he's coming back and talking about, oh, well, I just did it because of, A, B, or C. It's like, well, you've cried. How many times can you cry wolf? You know what I mean? So there's that. But that's the alibi part. Well, that obviously fell apart for them. So there's that. Okay, let's keep going here. And then this person says, so we're going back to the thing where they say, couldn't they get an eyewitness from the cinema? The next person says they weren't there, so there's no eyewitness. I mean, this is true. Where is the person that gave them the ticket stubs, though? ETA or the person that dropped off the room service? You would think someone would remember, but at the time the investigators knew Jones was pleading not guilty, it had been years. I don't think the police truly thought they did it until Jens confessed. By then, a year had passed. The police didn't feel it was necessary to substantiate Jens' story because of the confession. By the time he was back in the US, it had been years since the crime. Okay. So now this one, hold on, let's see. Let's see. Well, let's read this one. I'll keep going. Okay. It may not make most sense, but to me, it's completely obvious she was there and slightly less obvious he was. Because someone showered off the blood. I can see her doing that, but not him doing that if she isn't there. And I think it's true what she said about being more worried he couldn't do it than he would. She was older and way more capable of pulling this off. I don't think he could do it alone, and he didn't know what the mother was wearing when he confessed. What bugged me was the ridiculous alibi. Like, you can't buy movie tickets in advance. It's inconceivable the cops didn't run down the alibi evidence. We probably know the answer if they had. I mean, this is very true. Now, here's the other thing that will be brought up over and over. And let me get a sip of this. In court, and on one of the things, when she's being questioned and testifying, and she's asked, did you want your parents dead? Did you want him to kill them? And she's like, yeah, I did. She's very flat out honest about it. She was more worried about him not killing the parents, she said, than she was him killing them. So she wanted them dead, and she's very upfront about that. The stance that she took for her incarceration and whatnot was, I'm right where I belong. I'm right where I belong. I did this. We did this. No question. We're right where we belong. We deserve to be incarcerated, was her stance, taking accountability for it. Uh, and so, there's that. Okay, now let's go back to that screen, please out. And where do we go over here? Okay, so let's go to the next thing. It says, I love this documentary. It was riveting. And in my opinion, both Jens and Elizabeth are total and complete sociopaths at best, probably leaning into psychopathic territory. I was so shocked to see so many people believe Jens. I don't think he's convincing at all, in fact. I think he seems arrogant, narcissistic, and manipulative. He postures as if he believes his intelligence is far superior than most, and he seems to be a relentless advocate for only himself. He's an absolute creep. At least Elizabeth fesses up to her involvement. For me, at least, the bloody sock print was highly convincing. I would have liked to see that footprint against other male footprints of roughly the same size. This has 24 replies. And then it says, Jen is insufferable. The fact that he's being rewarded for this BS now is frustrating. His reluctance to have his feet taken for comparison until the judge order it did it for me. Okay, now here is the other thing too. Remember, at one point in the beginning, he is going to sit here and say, oh, I lied so that I could get her out of jail because I'm a German diplomat's son. I figured I could basically get out of it. So keep that in mind. Now, when they were like, look, going around interviewing people and stuff like that, and they were like, there's this footprint. Can we take an imprint of your foot to kind of rule you out? And he's like, mm-mm. He's like, you're going to need paperwork for that. Now, here's the thing. Knowing what we know now, and especially those of us who watch true crime, it's like, okay, well, that would make more sense to me if the cops came around asking for stuff because you want to protect yourself, right? Innocent, guilty, no matter what. It's almost like, I get it. Back then, things weren't as, you would think your natural response would be to try and help. Like, sure, if it can solve this or whatever, well, then it also doesn't help that it very much does look like it was his footprint. Okay. I mean, it's hard to kind of beat around that. Now, let me get down to this thing here too. Okay, let's go to this next thing. The sociopath versus psychopath debate is irrelevant to me, but I agree that Jens came off as a total narcissist. There was just something about the way he did so many interviews and became all about him. And I know they both changed their stories a lot, but his felt less consistent overall. Elizabeth may be downplaying her role, but I felt there was more truth to her version. It's always hard for me to believe that Elizabeth could overpower both her parents so easily while they were awake. And this is the part that I find very tricky. When you are sitting here thinking of this thing that went down, because again, they were almost beheaded, y'all. Okay. Um, they were almost beheaded. It would make more sense for it to be two people there. Okay. One of them takes one out, one of them takes the other out. Now, I'm not saying that, it was Jen's there and her that whatever, I think that by her own admission, she's saying she was there. He's saying he was not. Okay. I could see him being there. Like one of the scenarios that I think could have gone down is they were both there, but maybe he didn't participate in it and there was another person there. I definitely think at minimum that he was gassing her up about doing it and like going along with it and like, yeah, baby, that's what you want, and blah, 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 and we can do this and that type scenario. One thing that makes me think that she definitely had her hands involved in it is the severity of the injuries to the parent. It was like someone who had a personal hatred towards these people, right? And if there's like all this other stuff going on behind the scenes, then that could be where that came from. Now, again, we don't know. You could also, part of me, turn it into he had this personal, hatred. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. Let's get back over to Reddit real quick. I'm just gonna kind of get to the deeper ones that give good reason to talk. Okay, this one was a good one. So this person says, honestly, this case is so frustrating. It's obvious they were both there. The part where that gets me, which no one is talking about, is the parents just letting Jens in if it was only him present. So these two individuals who clearly did not like Jens just let him into their house when he shows up unannounced and are completely hospitable to him. The both of them made the trip. They pardon me, they let their daughter in who was occupied by her boyfriend. The cigarette places Elizabeth there. The sock print places Jen's there. The letters place both them there, from which completely disregards both of their defenses of I had no idea she was going to kill them. Our trip statement places them both there. Now, pause there for a second if you don't watch it. He slips up several times in confessions. And like when he says something at one point, he's like, well, our trip to there. And then he immediately is like, oh, I meant my trip. And the reason I said it, and this would be under the context of him trying to almost like downplay her role in it, which is why I definitely think they were both at the house. Definitely think they were both there. Even if it was a scenario of, him, I mean, we'll never know. I'm just guessing at this point. Anyways, let's keep going. Okay. So the fact she spoke up after 25 years when hearing he was going to be released, she had no problem serving the time because she knew she was there and had a part of their murder. Hearing that he was going to be paroled was the only thing that got her to speak up. And why? Because she knew he was there too. If she is going to serve for her crime, she is going to make sure he serves us too. Also, do people really think that the mother was that slow to escape the house? Her husband was stabbed over 30 times and his neck was slashed more than once. In the amount of time for that to take place with one killer, she only made it to the kitchen? No. The father was attacked at the table, in which the mom immediately runs but somehow is caught in the kitchen. Why? Because two people were there. Each of them took on a parent. They say that this case is so botched. Now, this scenario that this person just painted is a very, very similar to what I think could possibly have gone down. So I definitely think that she was there. And Miss Roney says, I'm reading here. She says, as soon as I saw the Merit cigarettes on the ground, I knew she was there. And I mean, that's the thing. Now, you can go back and forth talking about, well, she lived there, but she was living at school at the time. And I don't know if it was just in the comment that I read on Reddit or if it was from another one, but somebody was like, this mother is like very proper, all this. Pardon me, would she really let cigarette bushes linger around the house like that? To me, I think that she was there. I believe that Elizabeth was there during the crime. I believe she assisted in it somehow. Um, I do not believe that he just went there by himself at all. And the part where she's talking about the mom, pardon me, where it's like, okay, they didn't really like him, and so he just shows up. Again, that, you know, that part right there, I agree with. It's like, yeah, that would be kind of weird if there's this like bad blood and he just shows up. Now, another thing that's a little bit tricky is he very vividly is able to recount the crime scene confessing to this. Now, of course, he will be like, well, she told me what was going on and this, that, and the other and whatnot, but he gets some things wrong, but for the most part, he was able to literally say, well, they were eating ice cream and then there was an ice cream bowl, so on and so forth. So there's that. Okay, let's keep going. So this next thing says, the parents letting only Jens in stood out to me as well because they clearly didn't like him. So why did nobody even question why they'd be so cool with letting him into the house alone and why he'd feel comfortable dropping in unannounced where he wasn't wanted? Elizabeth's brother, that looks like Dwight Schrute, also said that his mother had told him that she was expecting both Jens and Elizabeth the day of the murder. It's just crazy how so many obvious questions weren't even asked, or at least it seems that way. And that's the other thing. So allegedly, she was expecting both of them to stop in. So, again, this is what just doesn't ring true to me unless he was trying to cover up for her. And I mean, Jen's covering up for Elizabeth of, I'll take the blame so that to save you for the electric chair. Pardon me. It's warm in the studio here, and so that's why it's like starting to put me like where I'm like, oh my gosh. But I don't want to turn my little fan on here because then that's all you'll hear in the background. So anyway, so I apologize that it once it starts, I'm like a little, like, what are those, like a little lizard or something where you get warm and I'm like, I'm basking in the sun. Roscoe's on my leg sleeping. It's the whole thing. It's very nappy inducing. And so let's see here. I'm just going through these. The sock print is honestly a bit sketchy. Bah, 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 bah. This person says, I agree with the fact that there's no way the mom couldn't get out in time. There had to be another person there. While I think it's possible they would let Jens in by himself, I'm just not 100% convinced he did it. Elizabeth has a reputation for lying and wanting to control others. It's very possible she lied and is still looking to manipulate him from a distance. So there's that. And then they're talking about the house coat. Okay, let's read. This is another longer one. It says, the only thing I'm relatively sure of is that she didn't do it on her own. Either Jens did it or they did it together. I say that because of the crime scene. Could this 20-year-old young girl have ripped her parents to shreds like that? Someone with no violent history, no known mental illnesses? It's possible, but it would be highly unusual. Double homicide by way of knife, including slicing their heads almost completely off. That type of extreme violence, especially unprovoked, is highly uncommon for women. Of the two remaining scenarios, I think the most likely is the simplest and most common. Elizabeth got him to do it. I think she certainly used manipulation, but at the same time, his writings show he was more than a willing participant. I don't think she had to exactly beg. I think that's why, although she truly seemed to legitimately feel remorse and accept her guilt, including her 90-year prison sentence, she was not about to let him say he was innocent and get away with murdering her parents. The idea that Jens had nothing to do with the physical murders and she just tried to pin it on him just doesn't make any sense. And then this next person says in response, but she looked twice his size, had much stronger feelings about her parents, knew the house and her parents much better, was the drug addict, etc. I'm relatively sure he didn't do it on his own. Either Elizabeth did it or they did it together. I guess that's why it was a compelling watch. It's a shame the police uncovered such little hard evidence, and Netflix spent such little time on what they did uncover. And then this person goes into the act, the strength, and all that type stuff. Now this person says, I believe that Jen did it. Whether Elizabeth is there or not, I'm not sure, but it's so incredibly clear, even just from his interviews, that he's so manipulative, had 4 years to come up with his defense. He even has a life coaching business now. He can definitely talk the talk, very smart and a proven liar. Both are guilty of involvement, though, before and after the fact, regardless. Okay, now on this note, let's stop sharing this. Let's just stop sharing that and get to the tea. Okay, so let's go and look at his website. Okay. Now, like I said, he's a life coach. Now, here's the thing. They're both out of jail now, okay? Out of prison, I should say. And please hold. They're both out of prison. Both, sent back to their countries, whole 9 yards. Now, her family members, some of them basically forgave her, did what they needed to do, but also like quit giving interviews, and she has not. She has been very silent. He, on the other hand, has been giving interviews. He has a podcast. He's very vocal, very out there with everything. So it's, there's that. So just know that. Now, what we're going to do is, let me find his thing here. Here we go. So let me go over here to share this. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at his website, his life coaching, like personal website. Okay. So just know that. Pardon me. Here he is. Yes. Share. Let me make sure y'all are seeing the same thing as me. So interesting how we're in these cases recently, we get these access to this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like his website, the Twin Flames, is still up and going. So on and so forth. Okay, so here's what he looks like now. You see it says coaching events, the case, media, donate, contact. Pardon me. Jen Soering, innocent, still fighting. We'll go to the GoFundMe page in a minute. Let's go to the case. And now let me make sure y'all are seeing the same page. Okay, yep. Okay, cool. So again, this is the house that it all took place in. And we're just going down. There are many excellent articles and radio reports about the murders in Washington Post and Virginia Public Radio. In 2020, Dr. Phil interviewed some of my supporters and me in a show. This was later released in 5 parts on YouTube. I'm not going to play it here just because it'll mess up the live. Pardon me. In the fall of 2023, a new podcast and book and a report were released. I've taken a close look at all 3 of them, and they're reasonably fair and accurate. So this podcast, bam. The Chuck Reed report, bam. The Jen Soering case, reasonable doubt, bam. Then it says my YouTube videos. Anyone interested in my take on various pieces of evidence in the Haysom murders case is welcome to visit my YouTube channel. In the video descriptions, I've linked documents, excerpts from trial transcripts, etc., that I discuss in the videos. For real true crime fans, this could be an interesting experience. I'm going to go to it. So let me go see. Are y'all seeing this page? If not, we need to make sure you are. No. Okay. So let me show you this other page. Okay. So you see this. This is his website. So the letters and the motive for the murders, correct and incorrect details of my confession, sympathy with the devil. He had, not a ton of stuff here. Well, 49 videos. The injustice system. Oh, did you see this? Look at this one. I mean, this was 2 weeks ago, 6,000 views. So, I mean, it's, I'm not sure how to feel about this dynamic of it. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. It feels a little bit like, ooh, I don't know. So there's that. Let me go back to the other thing. Present, share screen, the case, share. Okay. So here's that original case documents, online appointments. So he goes into request case documents and schedule an appointment now. So, I mean, he has several things in here. Okay. Events. So he does lots of speaking engagements, live on stage. Since 2022, I've been giving my readings and lectures in Germany on topics such as personal experience in prison, the cause of many wrongful convictions in the U.S., resilience both in prison and while building a new life in freedom. So he spoke. I mean, you see these credentials, right? I mean, a lot of places talking about this experience and whatnot. Let's see, media, Netflix, podcasts. Now, he was not happy with the Netflix thing. Lies in the Netflix series, my opinion. The Netflix series, my opinion. They released this. What a bitter disappointment. I spent 33 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. After my release, I wanted my story to be told truthfully. Obviously, I trusted the wrong people. That's too bad for you because you're not really going to learn what happened back then from the Netflix series. Many proven facts aren't even mentioned, and other things are, in my opinion, completely misrepresented. Elizabeth's confession on tape missing. For example, did you know that Elizabeth confessed to the crime on tape? I've linked the audio recording below so you can listen to it yourself. I did it myself. I got off on it. That's what Elizabeth told police during an interrogation on June 8th, 1986. Of course, I gave all this information to Netflix, but apparently the filmmakers didn't think you should know about her confession. Why? I'm particularly upset by the end of the series. Here, several people make what I believe are factually incorrect statements about the DNA test, the sock print, and the idea that Elizabeth and I could have committed the crime together. So let's just read his thoughts on the DNA thing. Okay. Toward the end of the series, till death do us part, or murder do us part, the argument is made that the DNA test performed in 2009 neither proved my innocence nor my guilt. That's what I was talking about earlier. This argument is based on the theory that the blood samples at issue might have been mixed or contaminated. This is not true. The person making this claim in the Netflix series is not a DNA scientist. His LinkedIn profile shown to the right describes him as a translator. The State Bar of Texas has him listed as an inactive attorney. The last time he practiced law in Texas was 2003. It is difficult to understand why Netflix chose a translator to discuss the DNA evidence, since there are two renowned DNA scientists who have worked intensively on this case. He shows them. Each of them has testified as an expert witness on DNA in more than 100 trials. Both of them concluded independently of each other the blood samples were not mixed or contaminated, and the DNA evidence indicates the presence of two male perpetrators with DNA profiles different from mine. And so then it goes on the video here, YouTube, if you're interested, and goes on to, just more stuff with it. Let me just come back over here for a second. And then let's come back over here. Where did we go? Where did it go, y'all? Here it is. All right, let's see what else he's trying to say. The sock print was major. Let's look at that one. And then I guess it goes into the sock print thing. Sock print analysis. I mean, the things you learn of stuff like that, sock print analysis. I mean, I'm just like, who would have known, right? So it's not a recognized forensic scientist. It falls under the category of junk science. Then it goes into, this expert. And the forensic pathologist in the Netflix series makes the same mistake as Robert Hallett. She compares the sock print made in motion with the sock print made while standing. That's like comparing apples and oranges. Also, she has no information on the type of sock worn. The thickness of the fabric will determine how much fluid is absorbed and thus how large the print is. Finally, the idea that anyone can be identified from a sock print that is as smeared as this one is absurd. I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, when you're watching these cases and some stuff comes up, you're just like, how would you really know that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how would you, I mean, like, really? Um, you know, it's the sock thing for me. At first it's very major, like, oh, we found a bloody footprint at the crime scene that matches him. Okay, go on and book him. You know what I'm saying? But then when you start peeling the layers back, I mean, Lord mercy. I don't know. Now let's do this. Let's get to the life coaching part because again, most of this website is about, pardon me, how he's innocent. So, and this is of course coming from him. Of course he's going to say that. So just know that you can go check this out is what I'm getting at. Now, coaching, resilience and mental strength, escape from toxic relationships. I mean, well, my God, let's see what he has to say about toxic relationships because you want to talk about him being in one. I mean, my God. So let's just jump right in. It says, at the age of 19, a toxic relationship cost me my freedom and nearly my life. I used the following 33 years to work on myself and to understand my mistakes. I mean, this goes in here. Let's jump to the bottom. In my coachings, I'll show you how I reached my goal and how you can too. I'm often contacted by people who are in toxic relationships or suspect that they are. It can be hard to recognize your own relationship as toxic. I accompany such people on their way to freedom. Notice that how he slid that in there, so that they, like me, can feel joy again. If my life proves anything, it's this: it's never too late for true love. Here's my thing, y'all. And this is good. We're not going to even just kick it back all the way to Ruby Frankie. Um, but Ruby Frankie, right? Here's my thing, y'all. When you start talking about life coach and so, and this is no offense to anybody who might be a life coach or whatever, but in the recent times with what we've been seeing, life coach this, life coach that, twin flames, Ruby Frankie, immediate red flags. Immediate red flags. Okay. Like a period, end of story. Okay. Just, I don't care who it is. Immediate red flags. I'm just immediately like, we have to investigate this. Okay. So when I saw him talking about I'm a life coach, I was like, oh my God. Innocent or not innocent, I was just like, I cannot roll my damn eyes hard enough at this. It's why? What I mean, like, did I miss this? Like, why does everybody want to do this all of a sudden? Okay. Anyways, let's keep going here. Outside of Germany, I've offered online coaching on a one-on-one basis that I can fully concentrate on the individual needs of each coachee. I'll continue to do that in the future, but starting in 2024, I'll also be offering seminars for small groups. Here we go. There you go, Rescue. Hold on. So, I want to sign up for it just to see how much it is. Donate. Okay, let me see. Let me make sure I can see this. We'll go ahead and jump into. Oh no! Hold on! No, hold on. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen, please. So stop sharing. Let's come back over here, and then let's go to GoFundMe, and then let's go to here. Let's present, and then share screen, GoFundMe, share screen. Okay, let me make sure y'all are seeing this. Now, here we are. So, Jen Soering, a new start after 33 years in jail, raising $33,000. He's gotten 286. And then he goes into this, innocent. He tells how much time he was in there, but only he was let out, but only on parole with not without the pardon he hoped for. And he says that the governor of Virginia's decision not to acknowledge my innocence publicly was, in my opinion, a terrible injustice. I felt like the governor had stolen me from the central truth about my own life. Fact is, I'm innocent. If he had done this, I could have applied for $1.4 million in compensation. By releasing me on parole instead, the governor saved his taxpayers that sum. I was given $53. Grateful for my freedom, but the injustice of denying me a pardon hurts to this day. And it goes into the financial consequences. Basically, people think I earn money from media. That's not the case at all. With the exception of superstars like Taylor Swift, maybe you don't get paid for interviews. Not even from Netflix, by the way. Still, I'm not giving up. I'm still fighting. He filed a new petition for a pardon in Virginia. In Germany, I'm building a new life as a coach, speaker, and podcaster. But none of that comes cheap. Lawyers, accountants, landlords all need to be paid. Finally, I have to secure my old age somehow, since I wasn't able to pay into any kind of retirement account. I'm not asking for a handout, but for startup financing for a new happy life after 3 lost decades. If prison taught me anything, it's that one fights best as part of the team. If you'd like to support me, I'd be very grateful. And then he's the organizer. So there's that. Now I'm just going to call this out. I'm getting a certain vibe from. I don't like the GoFundMe thing. I don't know any other nice way to say it. I don't like it. It's I don't know. I can understand where, and let's go on. There's two schools of thought. Let's say he is innocent. Let's say it really was like, yeah, I took one for the team. I made that up. I shouldn't have done it. It was stupid. I was innocent. I did not do what they said I did. Okay. So essentially, he was in jail for 3 decades, wasn't able to save money, nothing, right? So he's made a career of this. You know what I'm saying? And like, okay, I'm making a career. This is going to be my thing. Speaking of these injustices. Okay. So, but, and again, feelings aren't facts. And I wasn't there. I don't know these people, but my gut just says that's not the case, you know, at this point. Um, Something feels not right about that, and that's not even getting into him being innocent or not. And I don't know how to really describe it, but something just doesn't feel authentic about it. It feels like he's made this his career, and that might be his only choice, is what I'm getting at, I guess. Whether he's innocent or not, right? Whether we can prove it or not, it's like he's made it his career. And so I'm like, okay, there's something about it that doesn't, it feels off. Um, I guess this is my next part. You're fighting to get this pardon and blah, blah, blah. Now, if the pardon stands in the way of being able to get $1.4 million, I get it, right? But I almost look at it like this, and I'm like, damn, dude, you got out of a 2 life sentences, made it all the way back home to Germany. I'd be happy with that. You know what I'm saying? But it's not me, right? It's not my name tied up in it. So, but I'm looking at it like, just, go on. But it just feels like it's industry at this point. Um, there's something just, again, there's something just feels off about it. So that's all. And at the end of the day, I don't have to donate it to it. So, I can just keep scrolling. Basically, is what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. I have gone back and forth, like I said in the beginning, of my thoughts on his guilt or not guilt, or her guilt or her not guilt, all that. Okay. As of like 2 hours ago, I was like, he didn't do it. I was like, he didn't have something to do with it. Then I started going down the Reddit rabbit hole, and I was like, well, you know, this is the thing. I think that at a bare minimum, so first of all, I 100% think she was there. 100% think she was there. 100% think that she definitely manipulated him into assisting her, and somehow, and what level of that assistance was, I do not know, right? But she definitely pulled some strings there of some level to get him to help coordinate, assist, whatever with this. I think they probably were both there at the scene, probably both know what went down. I think there was probably another person there. I do not think that they both, I think that there was probably more than two people. Um, I find it odd that none of his DNA is anywhere around there. Do I think the footprint is his? It could be. I don't know. It's too, I don't really, the way they presented that, I'm like, I just can't, is really a moot point to me. What speaks louder to me is that I'm like, how is none of his DNA there? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that part. Number two, there's so much evidence of her being there. Number three, he's like, oh, I was going to take one for the team and go away for 5 years to help keep her from the thing. And I believe that 100%. And so on that level, however he was involved in it or not, I'm like, you were still willing to hide. You were still willing to assist in her, or hurt someone else, or whoever it was, taking the life of these two innocent people, right? So on that level, I'm like, your hands are still bloody, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, come here. I think definitely more than one person was there, because of the way it went down. I think that one person each was in charge of a parent, and whether it was those two, whether they were there, because there's this whole other theory where they had gotten these basically kind of like, drifter people to do it, and so it's like, well, whether they picked it, but then they proved it wasn't their DNA. They were able to do that. The fact that she's gone into hiding, and not hiding, but she doesn't speak on it. She doesn't do interviews anymore. She was like, we deserve to be where we're at. She spoke up when one of the governors pardoned him. And then, like, the next day, I think the new governor took it away or something like that. He was going to get out. And she spoke up and was like, nope, we're both where we belong. He belongs. If he was innocent, I'd scream it from the rafters, but he's not. Um, I think that they were young. I mean, even though she was a little bit older, I think that she was able to pull his strings, get him to assist her in some fashion, whatever level. Um, it's it is what it is. So I am going to go read his take on the evidence, because this was another thing that was mentioned that we have to remember. He had 4 years to cook up that story and go over everything, right? Um, and go over all the details and all this type of stuff. Well, he's had all these years to cook up even more details to it, if that's the case. Um, you know, when the DNA thing, when I was reading through it earlier, and I was left off at they both did it, because at a bare minimum I was like, they both did it, right? By the end of the documentary, before I opened one article and read it, I was like, they both did it, like that's what happened, and then they broke up, and so it was pointing fingers and this, that, and the other, but they were both there. um and because of that lie that's gone on with her is another reason why I have a hard time. I don't believe much of what either of them says, because at minimum they have proved that they are both liars. Okay, by sitting here and pointing the finger at each other, um, they're both liars, right? I mean, this is for sure. Um, so I don't know. But at the end of the doc, I was like, they both did it. Then I started reading some articles, and I was like, well, wait, they're saying this about the DNA now, and this about the shoe print, or the sock print, and now this. And then I was like, well, maybe he wasn't there. Maybe he wasn't lying of he didn't do this. Somebody else was there, and he was taking one for the team. But then going into some other stuff that just doesn't make sense. How much he knew about the scene. But then you can't get the DNA part throws me off too. So literally that's where I'm at with it. So every time I read another article, I change my opinion. So that's it. But that's why this is a documentary worth watching, because number one, you see how much stuff just here very quickly in the last hour or so we've gone over online. You know what I'm saying? And just quickly looking up Google stuff and finding it and going through it, which is some of the stuff that I like doing with these cases, where you explore it and you can kind of go down this path and be like, well, what about this? And what about that? Of course, I expect his website to be pro innocence. It would be idiotic if he was putting a thing up and being like, this is why I'm guilty. So it's, of course, that's going to be biased. And of course, he's had a long time to cook that up. Whatever that means, I don't know. So, pardon me. So there's that. So that being said, I am going to go to bed now. I am exhausted. This room is hot. Um, and I need to turn my little fan on. And Roscoe's curled up back next to my leg again. Period. So Elizabeth is out, but she does not give interviews. Her family doesn't want her to, and she's honored that. So I'm not sure exactly where she's at. I mean, I believe she's back in Canada. She's not legally allowed to come back to the United States. So, there's that. So anyways, thank y'all for hanging out and talking about this. Also, let me know if there is another. I'm really liking this pattern of watching a thing and talking about it at the end of the week. So hit me up in the email, the comments, wherever. Um, Let me know if there's another one that y'all want me to watch and go over, because I think this is fun. I love doing this right here. So anyways, oh wait, hold on. Emily says, reporting on the podcast. Oh, request has been made to post your next documentary on the community post of your main channel. Oh, you mean so like people can read it or watch it or something? And somebody mentioned one up here about where they now oh god, where did it go about this Amy Fisher, this. Cindy says, Paul, I think it's time for a review of the Amy Fisher, Joe Buttafuoco case. Where are they now? That was major. Is that new? Let's see. Where are they now? Where are they now? Amy. Comes right up. Well, let's see. Where are they now? Documentary Netflix. Amy Fisher, My Story. Is that what it is? The Amy Fisher, My Story? Oh, cool. Thank you, Emily. I keep hearing it says, yeah, that wants me to. Yeah, I don't know why it does that. So I'll look into this one right here, and I'm going to kind of sniff around on Netflix or whatever platform it is. They just usually have a lot of these, but I'll post it up there. And what is today, Saturday? So let's say by Monday, I'll know what it's going to be, and I'll post it up there. There's a documentary on Netflix. Okay, cool. I'll check it out. Okay. Well, thank you, Emily, for holding it down in the room. And thank you, everybody, for joining. I greatly appreciate it. I'll post on the main page the documentary that I'm going to watch this week, and then we can talk about it. So it'll be like homework or whatever. Anyways, that's it. Thank you all for being here. I love you, Sofa Squad. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for making this Saturday night worth Saturday. Anyways, I love y'all, and we'll see you on the sofa real soon, everybody. Y'all have a